Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution episode 991. It is Sunday. We're reviewing the Madison Card Show, September's Madison Card Show. Happy Sunday. I am in a bit of depressed mood over baseball. Actually, you know what? I mourned a few days ago. I was starting to believe, I think it was probably when the Rockies, who did we play? We lost 2 out of 3. So the Pirates, it was the Pirates series. That's when I started to get this uneasy feeling like we can still do it out. Absolutely. Still 9 games left. A lot of baseball to play. And then you go in, you sweep the Rockies at Wrigley last weekend. Like, okay. I was still nervous, though, because you have the Braves and the Brewers on the road. So I'm like, this is going to be tight. You go in, you take big leads against the Braves in Atlanta 2 nights in a row and lose both games. And you get swept. And then you lose the first game against Milwaukee. And now your backs are against the wall on Saturday, including now you need the Marlins to lose out and win out. Got the win. Marlins also got the win. Cubs are out. So I think actually today they're going for their 84th win. What was my prediction? 84 wins, sneak into the second wild card spot. Wasn't enough. Wasn't even enough for the third wild card spot. I think the Marlins are at 84 games. I just resigned to the fact. Yeah, I haven't watched the last 3 nights. I was so sick during that Braves series that I'm like, you know what? I can't take any more of this. So baseball is dead to me now until Cubs convention. Well, off season. I'll watch maybe some of the playoffs. I don't get in. If the Cubs are not in the playoffs, I don't care. I probably won't watch a playoff baseball game. I'm done. I'm done. I'm a Cubs homer. I'm done. All right. So we need wild card standings. Arizona, also 84 wins. So the second wild card spot right now, the Marlins have a half-game lead over the Diamondbacks with 84 wins. Diamondbacks currently in the third wild card spot with 84 wins. Cubs are mathematically eliminated. They have 83 games, 83, and they're going for their 84th win today. So Cubs suck. Bears suck. They play the Broncos today. I won't probably watch it, but it'll be on in the background. It'll be on the TV because I don't think the Packers played Thursday, so I'll get the game. See, when the Packers and Bears play at the same time here in Wisconsin, I don't get the Bears game. So we're going to talk about the Madison Card Show yesterday. Great show. Fantastic as a seller for me. And as a buyer, not so much. But that was my goal. And usually when I go in with a goal of not buying, I tend to buy a lot. And that wasn't the case because I bought so much last week and picked up a Goodwill pallet this week. So fortunately, the Goodwill pallet is all down and put on shelves. I did go through a bunch because I was filling up quarter boxes. A couple people asked me yesterday about the Goodwill pallet. This one, it was okay. I mean, I've never taken a loss on a Goodwill pallet. I've always made profit. Sometimes it's much better than others. This one's going to be kind of one of the a lot of good singles, a lot of good quarter box stuff. A lot of good dollar box stuff even. And there's going to be some other stuff that I'll put in my eBay store. But again, I've only gone through about half of it, but I do cherry pick. And the stuff I don't look at is junk. So I'll eventually get it rainy days and winter. I'll have more time at home. I'll go through the stuff. I mean, I still have boxes from previous pallets that I haven't gone through because it's probably mostly junk wax and beat up junk wax. So, but I've found good stuff. That's why I don't just throw those cards away, because I found a Giannis rookie debut ticket stub that sold for over $200. in like a trash bag of junk wax beat up to hell. I found a few Kobe Bryant rookies in top loaders in bags like that. So that's why no card is left behind from the Goodwill pallet. So this week is much better. I don't have to like frickin' beat myself up. My back hurts loading and unloading cards to meet deadlines of getting the card show and all that, getting the card show organized so I can be at a much more leisurely pace as I ship and list and ship. So today is a big shipping day. What's going on in the chat? We've got Donald Davis in the house. Good morning, Donald. Hall of Fame card collector. Good morning. He wants to know, are your impressions down, but sales are same too? Let's see. My impressions have been declining. And by the way, I upped my promotion percentage and I'm seeing like 15% on some just because I wanted to kind of spike those numbers post 50% off sale. So my impressions over the last 30 days are down 19%. My sales are down 13%. And I'll probably I see my chart on sales is like this. I mean, it's definitely, and my sales are down a little bit over the last few days because I haven't added anything to my store. I went heavy on adding inventory on Monday and Tuesday after I bought so much. And then I had the rest of the week, I was swamped with shipping and getting the card show ready and getting as a seller, as the promoter, and just trying to get shit out of my car and unloaded. So yes, my impressions are down. My sales are slightly down. My impressions are down more than my sales. Victor, what's happening? Good morning. A bad stretch of baseball has ended. On my way to the Bear game. Go Bears. Could this be the Bears win? I have a feeling. This is my thought. Okay. We're going to wipe away that initial prediction because after I saw this team play against the Packers, I'm like, oh, this is not a good team. What was I thinking? I have a feeling after watching these first 3 games, it's like, oh, the Bears are the worst team in the NFL. They're going to get the number 1 overall pick. No, they're going to do us dirty, and they're going to win like 8 games and get like the 15th pick. That's how football draft purgatory. That's what I have a feeling is going to happen. The Bears are going to win enough games to get a shitty draft pick. Hopefully the Panthers suck because we get Carolina's first round pick. Hopefully they suck real bad. We can get a really good pick from them. But I just have a feeling the Bears are going to eke out enough wins to get a shitty draft pick. And I have a feeling it starts today against the hapless Denver Broncos. It could be like the worst game in NFL history. But have fun. And hopefully, I don't know, I don't even want to root for wins. I'm resigned to the fact of it's going to be another shitty season, number 1 overall pick. So, I'm just in a shitty Chicago sports mood, right? Low Roller says Cubs got eliminated. They sure did. What happened to your Cubs prediction? Actually, it was pretty accurate. I can show you. Where's my Cubs prediction? Let's show you how accurate my Cubs prediction was. Let's share that screen. What happened to your Cubs prediction? So here is my Cubs prediction. Cubs win 84 games, which will be enough this year to sneak into the second wild card spot. The first one can come true. The first part of that can come true today. If the Cubs beat the Brewers today, they will have won exactly 84 games this season. But their 84 games will not be enough to sneak into the second wild card spot. But 84 games is enough, potentially, to sneak into that second wild card spot. Currently, the second and third wild card spots have 84 wins going into the last game of the season. So, unfortunately, it's just not going to be the Cubs. Even if the Cubs do win 84 games, they have been mathematically eliminated. But 84 wins most certainly could be enough for the second wild card spot. So that was pretty damn accurate. Number 2 was true pretty early on. The loss of our starting catcher the last few years, Wilson Contreras, will be addition by subtraction. And I was mainly meaning that from a defensive standpoint and making the pitching staff better. That's where that prediction came in. It was basically, because that leads into my third prediction, as you see on the screen. It was basically for defensive purposes. Yan Gomes handles the pitching staff way, way better than Wilson Contreras. And that was certainly true. And look at how well the Cubs pitching staff starters, not so much the relievers. A lot of the Cubs pitching struggles late in the year came from just running out of gas. It certainly wasn't, no catcher on earth would have been able to fix what happened to the Cubs down the stretch in terms of the pitching staff. But Yan Gomes was also pretty good offensively. I know Wilson is the better offensive player, and there's no doubting that. That's not where I think when people see that prediction, they're like, whoa, Wilson Contreras. It's not from an offensive standpoint. Yes, Wilson Contreras is a much better offensive player, but he's not a very good catcher defensively. So Wilson Contreras, his WAR from Baseball Reference, 3.4. He hit 264. Let's see, with a 264, 358, 467 slash line, 20 home runs, 67 RBI, even stole 6 bases. Let's go see what Yan Gomes was doing this year offensively. Yan Gomes, a 1.6 WAR, 266 batting average, so a couple points higher than Wilson. 9 home runs, 58 RBIs, so about half the amount of home runs, but about the same RBI. He did steal 1 base, which is 1 more than I would have expected. His slash line was 266, 313, 401. So sure, Wilson Contreras better offensively, but really not a huge difference offensively, and defense is what I was basing that prediction. And defensively, Yan Gomes was way better, especially how he handled the pitching staff. And that goes into our third. Justin Steele will be in the top 3 for National League Cy Young. That will come true. Justin Steele will probably take second, will probably be the runner-up for National League Cy Young this year. So how about that? So suck it, low roller scratcher. Those are my Cubs predictions, and they worked out pretty well. Better than I would have expected. Like, these are bold predictions. These weren't like, I'm going to put money in Vegas on these predictions. These are bold predictions, and they were pretty accurate. Cooter's in the house. What's up, Cooter? Good morning. Are you practicing card flipping on the wall behind you? Oh, yeah. Can you see that? Where's the East Coast Tom? Funny thing is, we actually do card flipping at the Madison Card Show after the show ends. My buddy East Coast Tom, who drops in the chat every once in a while, turned us on to that. And I was never into card, because I grew up in the era where you have to get protective sleeves and binders and top loaders and screw down holders. That's the era I grew up in. I wasn't, I was too young for the card flipping days, but we do a little card flipping at the Madison Card Show. No, but what you see behind me, I don't know if you can see, but you can certainly see there. So what happened was, those are my Elite Extra Edition autos that I bought last weekend. Don't worry, they're all top loaded. They were in stacks because I had separated the autos from the non-autos and the relics. And I put the non-autos and the relics in my dollar box. They were already top loaded. Like, this is easy. And I actually sold quite a few yesterday. The autos I'm going to be putting on eBay, so I'm going to have to untop load them. And actually, I could probably just run them through top loaded, save me some time, in my 8170 from Rico. Funny story here. So my autos down here, all top loaded, and they're in like 3 piles, because there's a whole bunch of them. They're in like 3 piles. Well, I came into my office yesterday morning at 4:30 in the morning. It's very dark. I'm a dumbass. I didn't turn the lights on. And I walked in to grab something off the counter behind me. And all of a sudden, what the hell? And I kicked the entire pile, like all 3 piles. So there's cards up against the wall. There's cards over here. So I've got to pick up. It's like, what's the game? 57 pickup or whatever. I got a game of that going on today. So that's what happened yesterday. 4:30 in the morning, dark in my office. I'm a dumbass. I didn't turn the light on. Fortunately, everything was top loaded, so no cards were damaged. No cards were damaged in that little incident. Low Roller says, "Do you buy any Goodwill pallets?" Yep, picked it up on Monday. Ken, what's up? Good morning. Are you coming down for the November Dallas Card Show? I'm 50-50 right now. It's been tentative. It's 50-50. I think my wife has a trip planned that weekend, so I've got to follow up. I take way more trips than my wife, so whenever my wife like does non-work related stuff, I'm like, please, because she's like, I'm stubborn when it comes to like staying at home and just working 7 days a week around the clock. She's like works way more than I do. I sell baseball cards, so she sells houses. I sell baseball cards. So I've got to check. I've got to check on her schedule to see. You find any Pokemon, MetaZoo, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Goodwill? No, they usually, that is a good question. They usually separate that stuff and they sell that separately. And I don't do that stuff. I have no idea. Like I mentioned last week about Pokemon, like there's fake card, like they fake common cards. Like, what? Like as a sports card guy, I like had like what that would be like making a fake copy of a Allen and Ginter Seiya Suzuki rookie card. Like, why would you do that? But apparently that's a thing in Pokemon. I didn't know. So yeah, they separate every once in a while. There will be some like random, but not like boxes of them. They will, once they find, because I think they do some type of sorting when it comes into wherever they get the cards. And Pokemon goes off on its own and they sell those separately. They do bulk deals. They don't have pallets. That much Pokemon isn't coming in to the Goodwill. But they will have like boxes, like usually like 500 count boxes, maybe, a few stacks of cards, and they'll do like a bulk lot. And I stay far, far away from that because that's just not my thing. Talking Tatis says, what's up on John Nolan Drive? John Nolan Drive, they got fortunately, we were just ahead of the Dairy Expo. It's like the World Dairy Expo. Of course, it's in Wisconsin. It's right across the street at the Alliant Energy, the same place where you can see Queensryche at the Bratfest. But the World Dairy Expo takes place, and it like takes up, because it was this time last year, I went to get pricing at the Alliant Energy Center, which is across the street from the Sheraton Hotel on John Nolan Drive. And I was getting pricing, and it was a week before they start setting up for the World Dairy Expo, a week before. And they use like every single building because there's several buildings within the complex of the Alliant Energy. There's the big arena, which is what people think like, oh, you need to have your card show at the Alliant Energy Center, which is where like the wrestling events are and like hockey and monster trucks. But I didn't even get pricing for that. Like I get the exhibition halls, which are like across the street, and it's still like $40,000. So it's like, do you want to show at the Alliant? Okay, we can do it. It's not going to be at the big arena. It's going to be over here, and it's going to be slightly larger than the current Madison Card Show, but you're going to pay $10 admission. Dealers are going to have to pay like $250 for a table, and you're going to have to pay $8 for parking because they charge parking. That's not on me. That's the complex charges that. So do you really want an Alliant Energy Card Show? No, you don't. So it just doesn't work out financially. So that's what's up on John Nolan, the World Dairy Expo. So speaking of, the World Dairy Expo starts today. I think today's like load-in day. So when I pulled in to the Sheraton Hotel on John Nolan Drive yesterday morning, the parking lot was like empty. So I talked to one of the guys and I'm like, man, I'm surprised like it's so empty. And they're like, oh, just wait. Like the Dairy Expo starts tomorrow. So by the time your show's ending, all the dairy guys are going to be coming in to check in because they're sold out for the next week. So I'm like, aha, that's what's going on. So that's what's going on John Nolan Drive. The World Dairy Expo this week, the Alliant Energy Center. SoCal Guy 1967, what's up on the West Coast? Good morning. Kyle, good morning to you. Let's see. Your sales, hockey and soccer. James, what's up? Bears will win 3 games. Today is one of them. That could be the case. I just have this feeling they're going to win 7 or 8 games and they're going to get like the 14th pick. And it's just, that's what's going to happen. That's what I feel is going to happen. They're going to turn things around. They suck, but they're just going to, like, there's sucking. And then there's like really sucking. And actually really sucking is like winning more games. It's like same in the NBA. Like it's like you get the 15th pick every year. Well, especially in basketball, the 15th pick. Oh, same in football. Similar in football. Not the same, but similar. I just have that feeling. Would I put money on it? No, because you're right. They probably will win only 3 games. They're terrible. But I just have that feeling they're going to be more than terrible. And by more than terrible, it's winning more than 3 games. They're going to win like 8 games and put us at the 14th pick. Talking Tati says Padres will not end the season below 500. Quite an accomplishment for a $300 million roster. Good, congrats. I think when I was doing my predictions, I predicted, and I was kind of right, and the NL West was going to beat each other up, but I thought they were going to win a lot more games against out-of-division opponents, the Padres. And like the Diamondbacks were good. Like I had the Padres, Giants, and Dodgers as like the top 3 teams, and that wasn't really the case. Dodgers, that was the case, but Giants and Padres, not so much. Let's see. Where are we at? Cooter says, my Giants blew monkeys this year. Glad they fired Gabe Kapler. Hopefully they fire their GM next. They need a manager, not a statistician. Screw analytics. I was having a debate last night. The analytics is just, I love numbers, but I'm so fucking tired of analytics. So tired of it. So I was having this debate conversation, and it basically started with Brady on Twitter said, I want an apology from every Cubs fan that kept saying it's a long season back in May when they weren't banking easy wins, which of course that's easy to say on September 30th. But you know what? Those losses didn't matter. And what I mean by that, it's easier for me to say this spoken word as opposed to, I don't pay for Twitter, so I get limited characters in my tweets. They didn't matter. What really mattered was these last 2 weeks. And this is more in the psychological sense. This isn't like, well, sure, they did matter. If they would have won those games in May, they could have snuck in the playoffs. They didn't win those games, but they didn't win when it really mattered the most. Like in May, you can't say you have to win this game. It's all psychological. In May, you're not playing for a playoff spot. You're playing games. Yes, we all know there's 162 games in a season. You have to win games in April as much as you have to win games in September. But when the games really matter, because baseball is baseball, 162 games, a lot of shit happens in a 162 game season. You get down to the last 2 weeks and your backs are against the wall and you're not fighting to win. You're actually getting your asses kicked. You're down. You're up 6-0 and you give up a 6-run lead when you have a playoff spot on the line and you lose that game. Fuck May. Those losses don't matter. When you have a 6-0 lead and you give that up with your backs against the wall, you have to get into the playoffs to win that game and you lose. Fuck it. You don't need to get into the playoffs if you can't win those games. May doesn't matter. Win these games in September that matter. Why am I going off on this tangent? Because this is the analytics crowd. So blah, 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 blah. So then Brady says their 90-70 expected record says otherwise, because I said, I said my comment was this team was wildly inconsistent all season, which is true. You can go back to May, and there was winnable games in May. Same in September. It was a wildly inconsistent season the entire year. There was a month where they were playing among like the best team in baseball. But otherwise, they were barely a playoff team, a fringe playoff team. So I'm like, 90-70 expected record. What the hell is that? Who projected that? According to the Cubs 2023 stats, scoring RA and RS, their expected record right now is 90-70. Well, guess what? You don't get into the playoffs by expected record analytic bullshit. You get in by wins and losses. That's what you get into the playoffs. Don't give me this BS analytic shit until Major League Baseball says, we're going to go by your expected blah, 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 blah. Your analytic garbage. Your word salad, your letter salad. Once they start giving playoff berths to analytic bullshit, then I can care. But until then, I don't give a damn. I'm with you, Cooter. Analytics blows. Suck it, analytics. George, what's happening? Good evening to you. Good evening. Powerball's up to $1 billion. Value Box Digger says, did you find that Jordan rookie yet? No. You know, to this day, 15 Goodwill pallets. I have found one single 86 Fleer basketball card. I think it was Bernard King. It's the only 86 Fleer. No Jordan rookies. Couple Jordans, no Jordan rookies. T206 Kid, random question. For one-day shows, do you prefer Saturday or Sunday shows? I have my feelings about both good and bad. I am very staunch in my belief on Saturday versus Sunday. Look no further than when do I hold my Madison Card Show? Saturday. I am 100% believer in Saturday card shows because on Sundays, and I'm not a religious guy. I don't do church. I don't do any of that stuff. And I know some people do. That's cool. But that's not why I do. It's not like I don't take Sundays off. I'm going to be working all freaking day. Usually I work more on Sunday than any other day of the week. But Sunday, I like doing it in my sweatpants and hoodie. Put a hat on because I need a haircut. Need a shave too. Much bigger fan of Saturday shows. It's just personal preference. Do I have a reason for it? There's no sales methodology to it. It's just I prefer it. As a collector, buyer, seller. I've had just as much success selling. We take it from a selling side. I've had just as much selling success on a Sunday show than I have on Saturday shows. That St. Charles show a couple weeks ago, the Kane County Fairgrounds, a fantastic sales day on a Sunday. On NFL Sunday, the opening kickoff for NFL, had a great sales day. Janesville shows have been a mixed bag, though recently I've had really good outings, which will be my next show that I set up at October 22nd, Janesville. I've had some really good shows the last few times, Sunday shows. Same with Saturday. Rockford on Saturdays, I've had great turnouts. Madison, yesterday was an amazing sales day for me. I had made $150 in quarter, and I took some dollar boxes, dollar and quarter cards, $150 before 9:00 yesterday morning. So it's just, for me, it's a preference. I'm just more out and about on Saturdays. I feel like Sundays is just kind of a lazy day. Sundays have always been. It used to be when I was younger. It used to be, and I'm talking like in my 20s. It was because I was really hungover on Sunday, and so I didn't do shit on Sundays. It's like, I'm just gonna wear my sweatpants and hoodie, feel like shit, watch football all day. That's why I like Sunday, or that's why I like lounging around on Sundays. And now I'm not hungover. I went to bed at like 8:45 last night. I was up at 4:15 yesterday morning, so that's earlier than usual for me. So I was tired, went to bed early. That was me. A wild Saturday night. So I just like Saturdays better, personally. It's just a personal preference. But in terms of buying and selling, there's really no difference. There's really no difference. You do see if it's a multiple day show, but your question was asked for 1 day shows. 1 day show, I don't see any difference. If it's a multiple day show, Sundays blow. If you're doing a 2 day show, 3 day show, Sundays absolutely suck. But if it's a 1 day show, Sundays are just as good as Saturday and vice versa. Zach and Porter, what's happening? Good morning. Hey, I think East Coast Tom was asking because he sees you in the chat, was asking if you ever made it over to Madison. I said a couple times a year. Usually you're hanging out in Oak Creek. Let's see. Where are we at? Brian says, what's up? Good morning, Brian. Jason's in the house. Good morning. Minnesota is doing their second annual Minnesota Sports Card Show in April. 450 tables. Very nice. I heard that was a good show last year. Heard that was a good show. I will most likely not go. I like sticking to my because I'm not like, there's a lot of guys, a lot of dealers that I know, and they travel to shows. And that's cool. But they're also buying slabs and $100 cards and $500 cards and flip it and all that stuff. I'm like loading my car up with 5 row boxes and 4 row boxes. So I don't travel very much. Where we at? Value Box Digger Minnesota Card Show is an interesting one. They have changed the venue nearly every 3 months now. Buyers cannot plan to attend when 3 weeks before a show they move the city location of the show. Is this the big one that Jason's talking about? Sounds like this is the big one that they do at is it at the Viking Stadium? They did one last, I think it was last April. It was last April. So I think this is just an annual event. Where are we at? Cooter says, in the Bible Belt, you will cast into the fires of hell for a Sunday show. Yes. So it was a really good show yesterday. For the first time in several months, I was not like super, and I think I got all my stress out like Thursday and Friday. Excuse me. I was really stressed out for some reason. I had oversold the show, so I was concerned what to do. I didn't get any late cancels on Friday. Yeah, I took some cancellations during the week, but I had no like Friday afternoon, Friday night cancels. I don't think I took a single. Maybe I did take one on Friday, but I think I was oversold. It's like, okay, no worries. No worries. You're good. I still ended up being oversold. I had to bring one of my own tables in. Let's see. And yeah, I was able to flip-flop. One person brought in a table themselves, which I told them I'm oversold, but I've got a spot for you. I just don't have a table for you. So they did bring their own table in. And then I brought a table in. So we were at 127 tables. So no late cancellations. I didn't get any messages first thing Saturday morning at 4:30, and I see a text from midnight saying, "Oh, I can't go." So thank you. That's kind of how my day is. If I wake up at 4:00 in the morning to like multiple messages like, "Hey, I can't come to the show," that really pisses me off. That gives my day a real shitty. And I know sometimes some stuff comes up, but it's like, how come some stuff comes up with like 3 different people at the same time? We didn't have any of that. So that was awesome. So I had loaded up all my stuff on Friday night. So I just had to grab a couple things and knock down the pile of cards behind me. And it was so early. How early was it? I had to go to McDonald's for breakfast because Dunkin' doesn't start serving food till I think 5:30. So it was about, what time was it? 5:15, 5:10, 5:15 when I was hitting up the McDonald's drive-thru. I did a sausage biscuit and a breakfast burrito. And I think James said only one breakfast burrito. And it's like, I got to limit myself. That's why I do the sausage, because if I eat 2, I want like a third. But I mean, I know if you only order 2, then you have to only get 2. But it's like, man, I want 3 or 4. Because you can eat breakfast, McDonald's breakfast burritos. You can eat like popcorn. Oh, they're so good. But I limit myself to one. And the sausage biscuit gives me a little more carbs, and my coffee. And the coffee kind of was gross. How gross was it? I ordered another coffee when I got to the hotel. First time ever that I've ordered a second coffee in the morning of a Madison Card Show. First time ever. That's how bad. And I don't I hate McDonald's coffee, but that's how bad this particular morning's, because I've had it before, of course, many times. That's how bad this yesterday morning's McDonald's coffee was. It was so bad that I went and ordered a second coffee at the hotel because they've got like fake Starbucks. And then I have to go through I hate Starbucks. I have to go through and I have to figure out what the hell is a grande? What's a venti? God damn it. And then it's like, can I just get a coffee? Like, I don't want a cafe macchiato. I don't want a latte, a cappuccino. I don't want any of that. I just want a coffee in a large, whatever a large means on your menu. Give me that. Throw a couple creams on. Starbucks, make it simple. KISS. Apply the KISS principle, Starbucks, for dumbasses like me that don't want to follow your menu. So I got a Starbucks coffee at the little cafe at the hotel. First time, and let's see, how many shows has there been? April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Did not do a December in that first year, so that was 2021. So 20, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So 29 shows. There's been 29 Madison Card shows. First time, this was the 30th. First time in 30 shows that I've ordered a coffee at the hotel. That's how bad the McDonald's coffee was. So I went in with like no stress, with the exception of my shitty McDonald's coffee. I went in and I didn't have to really move stuff around. I had to bring my table in. I had to swap out a couple names just because I had to do some musical chairs, which I knew I had to do anyway. So I did that. And then I had like time to and then I set my tables up. And then my early birds, Troy and Jim, they're always like, and usually they're walking in at the same time. In fact, Troy came in first. We're chit-chatting. And then he goes, "Where's Jim? Is he setting up today?" And I said, yeah, he should be. He didn't tell me he wasn't coming. And he's like, "Yeah, usually we arrive at about the same time and are walking in together." And then the moment he said that, here comes Jim walking up the steps. So Jim and Troy, always the first guys there around 6:30. So chatted with them. And then a couple other dealers started coming on in. And by 7:30, I had like 2 or 3 guys at my table digging already. And by 8:30, I think by 8:30, I made $150 in sales before the show starts. That's what I tell dealers. Like, I had some first-time dealers who are like, my setup starts as early as 7. Show starts technically at 9, but I do have early birds walking the floor as early as 7:30. You don't have to set up at 7, but if you want to kind of capture, because not too many people set up that early. So, usually by 7:30, there's really only about a third of the dealers setting up. By 8 o'clock is when everybody really starts arriving, but there's already a dozen people walking the show floor, which, hey, I'm cool with that. And it allows more time for money to be spent. So I'm all for it. I made money, and I make money early. So, hey, one of the guys came in. He's like, and he was actually with one of the other dealers. And he came up and he goes, "I knew you'd be set up already." And he, spent 20. Actually, he spent like $40, I think, 40 or $50 with me. I think 50. I think he had like 70 cards or something. And I'm like, "I'll do 55. He's like, "Will you take 50? I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do 50. I don't like to be like, if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm a little more apt to give discounts. But at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm not really going to give some really big discounts because it's, early on in the show. Value Box Digger says the big one is yearly, and the guy does a monthly Minnesota card show, so it's the same guy running it with the same name of the show. Jason commented, he was talking about the big show, the one in April that's 450 tables. I should note the big one is 450 tables that do not fill. The monthly are 120 tables. Interesting. That's something that has started to pop up where I think there was, I don't want to say the city because I don't want to get it wrong, but there was a show recently within the last couple months that advertised as like 300 or 400 tables, and there was like 100 tables. And I know dealers left like they got there and like halfway through the first day, they're like, this is not 400 tables, and left. You can really do yourself in as a promoter by playing those games. So hopefully they fill. Rock Latex, what's up? You have any Aiden O'Connell Bowman U? He's getting the start for the Raiders. Oh, wow. I don't think I have any. Was he, if he was in the most well, now there's 3. If he was in the second or third release, probably not. All the Bowman U I bought was from the first year that I still have, and I've sold off a lot of it. So, but I think he was in the first Chrome edition, basically last year's product. I don't think I have any. So yeah, off to a good start yesterday. The Madison Card Show sales, I did really well. I made more yesterday than I did last week, over 2 days last week, which was good for this week. I did really well last week buying though, so I didn't go in expecting to buy anything at the show this week. Traffic was great. It was kind of an interesting flow of traffic, which it usually is because if you're not familiar, there's 2 floors to the Madison Card Show. The first floor, when you walk into the front door, the back corner ballroom is the Williamson Ballroom. There's 40 tables in that room. And then there's upstairs in the mezzanine, there's 15 tables out on the mezzanine, which is basically a hallway. When I say mezzanine, they're like, what's the mezzanine? It's the hallway. But when you say hallway, but it's actually, it flows well with the show. So I don't like saying hallway. But then when I say mezzanine, people are like, what the hell's the mezzanine? Anyway. And then the ballroom has 70 tables. 70 tables in the ballroom. So it does get kind of, so people walk in, and now we've done the, I've done the 2 floor for a year and a half now. So initially, first few months, it was people not used to having that downstairs ballroom. And now it's people just kind of go into the downstairs ballroom first. And it's funny, I still have people like they want to be downstairs, and I have people want to be upstairs. Well, I'm not going to set up if I can't be upstairs. Okay. I have people, I want to be downstairs. At least now I have enough of that where it's like I can usually squeeze people in like where they want to be. Unless it's too specific. Like I need a corner wall space upstairs. Okay, that's not going to work. But I can usually, if you want to be in the upstairs ballroom or the downstairs ballroom or the mezzanine, I can usually fit you in because I've got enough rotation that I can move people in. So yeah, people usually when they're walking in, they come into the downstairs Williamson ballroom first, and then go upstairs. So typically you see like at 9 o'clock and leading into 9 o'clock, you see it's kind of light crowd upstairs, but it's packed downstairs. And then by 9:30, 10 o'clock, all of a sudden the upstairs fills and it's still somewhat busy downstairs, and then another wave, and it kind of it waves. It goes in waves. And I saw that more so yesterday than I have in previous months, where it was kind of a slow, like we had our early birds and, a dozen, 15 guys walking the floor, 8 o'clock, 8:30. And then 9 o'clock, it's like plus a few more. It's like, man, it's pretty light in here. But then 9:30, all of a sudden this wave comes in. It's like, oh, it's packed. And then it kind of slowed down a little bit. And then there was a second wave that came in. And then I went downstairs because I had to chase around money. By the way, dealers, if especially now that I'm setting up, if you can pay me for the dealers that don't prepay, if you can pay me like when you get to the building, or if you see me, like snag me, because it's especially as it gets later in the day, it's hard, and it's what's difficult. And I was talking with Mike, the promoter of the Premier Card shows. It's difficult because, we have our list. We have, half have already paid, prepaid. And then, some people pay, they just pay when they get there. Some people I go around and collect. And, it's guys that I need to collect from towards the end of the show that are usually busy throughout the show, and say, like, I'm upstairs set up at my spot. It's like, if I know like East Coast Tom or Bronco or James is at my booth, I can be like, hey, I'll be right back. They understand. I did. I'll circle back to this, but I did have somebody walk away. I lost a sale because I wasn't at my table. And I know that sucks, but it's the name of the game for me. So I go downstairs and it's, I don't know, it's like 12:30. It's like, wow, it's still really busy down here. What happens is I have like, say, 2 people I still need to collect from. And I go downstairs at like 11 or 11:30 and I collect from a couple. It's like, oh, that guy's got people at his table. I don't want to go interrupt a deal. Be like, hey, I need your table payment. But then it gets annoying because I have to walk back 3 times. It's like somebody's still at his table. So it's just make it easier on me, because I'm the only, and I put this on myself because I'm the solo guy and I'm set up. So I put this all on myself. But if you want to make my life a little easier, I would be all for that. So I did lose a sale. So I was doing one of my rounds, and I had a guy, it was like $20. And I did end up selling. Bronco pulled out one. He's like, yeah, the guy got upset and walked away. He said, well, if he's not going to be here, I'm not going to buy. That sucks. I'm sorry, but that's just kind of what you have to do. I know that's, as a buyer, I would be annoyed. And so I would do this. I might do the same. So, but it does suck. So I did lose a sale. Where we at? Value box says, call the hallway the grand entrance. I like it. The grand entrance. I like it. 5 years from now, what will be worth more? The Bowman Babe Ruth superfractor just pulled, or the 48 leaf Babe Ruth? Easy, 48 leaf. And it might not even take 5 years. It might take a year. Yeah, the Babe Ruth superfractor was at $200,000 bounty from Dave and Adams. Now, the question is there a second one out there? Value Box Digger says, to Cooter, as your hobby whisperer, I advise you to invest in the 48 Ruth. There you go. One walked into my life and collection last Wednesday. Whoop. How about that? How about that? So, one fun story about buying. So I only bought, and it was the end of the day, I was collecting from one of my dealers who actually I bought a ton from last weekend. I was collecting his table payment, and then I looked down and he's got a Jefferson Rojas Mega Box Blue Refractor Auto for $20. And Jefferson Rojas is a young stud for the Cubs. And I'm like, oh, so here's $20 back. So that was the only purchase I made yesterday for myself. Fun story, though. Fun story. My guy Jeremy Sheckelman, Sheck. So he got 4 tables, and he had a couple buddies set up with him in the downstairs in the Williamson ballroom. And so I went down, and Jeremy Bruce, and I forget the guy's name who actually the deal kind of did start with. So they're talking about Cubs, and Bruce is like, I had a box of Cubs for you. I forgot it. I'll bring it next time I come. So the other guy goes, hey, I just pulled a superfractor out of a blaster box. Topps Chrome superfractor. He goes, I think if it was Christopher Morel. And I know a couple guys that are like super collectors of Christopher Morel. And I'm like, I do have a buyer. Do not sell that. I have a buyer. Well, it turned out it was not Morel. It was Nelson Velasquez. It was his rookie superfractor from Topps Chrome. And I'm like, what do you want for that? Because I probably have a buyer. I might have multiple buyers. And he goes, I don't know. I just pulled it, I think yesterday, he said. Just pulled it yesterday. I've got to look to see. Obviously, it's a 1-of-1 superfractor, so it's not like you can just see what the last one did. So he's like, I've got to look for, similar players to compare it. We'll see. So I'm like, okay. So I took a picture, sent to my Cubs group, and didn't hear anything back for a couple hours. Well, my guy Ethan Roberts, Cubs pitcher, former teammate of Nelson Velasquez, he's out in Arizona, so he gets the message. And he goes, hey, I want that. I'm interested. I'm like, okay, I'll go find it. So I go downstairs. I'm like, hey, I've got a buyer. He's actually a Cubs player, former teammate of Velasquez, because Velasquez Nelly got traded to the Royals, and he's on fire with Kansas City. And he's like, oh, I just sold it. I'm like, oh no. Like, what'd you sell it for? And he goes, $150. I would have bought it for $150. I'm like, oh my God. I know he would have paid more. Like, oh. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, I priced it at $200. Guy offered me $150. He still wins. The dealer still wins because he got it out of a $35 blaster box. Made $150 in a day or two. That's a win for him. Could have had more, but it's still a win, right? So I text Ethan back and I'm like, dude, it just sold. He only sold it for $150. Ethan's like, I would have paid more than that. I'm like, I know you would, because I would have paid that. I'm like, let me find it. I can probably find it. So I go back down and I'm like, hey, so this guy really wants it. And he's willing to give your buyer a profit. Do you know who bought it? And of course, it's a card show. It's hard. It's like, no. And they're not and they haven't set up. This guy hasn't set up. I think this was his first time setting up. Bruce has only set up once, maybe twice before. So Bruce was like, I've seen him at shows before. I saw him here at the last Madison show. I know he sticks around. He's still here. I'm like, what was he wearing? What did he look like? And they're like, oh. And he wasn't really wearing anything. It's like he just looked like a normal dude, like most of the guys in there. So I'm like, well, can you direct him? Hopefully he knows who I am. Can you direct him upstairs? I'm on the back wall because I've got a buyer. So about 10 minutes later, Bruce texts me and he goes, found him. He's coming up. It ends up being Nick from Stack and Sell. You may know him from Instagram. So I'm like, so he walks up and he's like, I hear you want some. I'm like, thank God it's Nick, because I know we can work out a deal for sure. So I'm like, hey man, so Ethan Roberts, who pitches for the Cubs, former teammate of Velasquez, he wants this. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, would you do $250? And he's like, yeah. He's like, that's actually the exact number that I wanted to get for it. So he got what he wanted and did it in 10 minutes. Dealer, how about this? Dealer buys a $35 blaster, and this is when everybody walks away happy. 3 different people in the span of 10, 15 minutes walked away happy. Actually, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3. 3, and then I walked away happy because I was happy to make this all happen. So 4 people are happy. And a lot of guys in our group chat, because we were just messaging back. They're like, it was like a soap opera for about 15 minutes. And so he's like, yep, I'll do $250. That's exactly what I wanted. So I message Ethan. I'm like, hey, he'll do $250. I'll let you do the payment. So Ethan paid Nick. Nick got the payment. Ethan's like, I'd rather have you ship it. So I'm like, you got it. So I've got the card. I'll ship it out tomorrow. Dealer bought a $35 blaster. Next day sells a card for $150. Nick buys the card for $150. 10 minutes later sells it for $250, $100 profit. Ethan gets a card, and he probably would have paid more than $250. He gets a card that he wanted for his own collection, and I made it all happen, and I'm happy that I could make 3 people do this deal. A lot of fun making that happen. So that was a fun little, that was a pickup, but not for me. I got the Jefferson Rojas, and I was happy with my $20 purchase. Didn't buy anything else. I had, I did have somebody offer me, and somebody was talking to me about how do I source cards? And this is a common question I get. Well, how do you get all these cards? And usually people ask that because I have like rows and rows of 4-row boxes of quarter cards and dollar cards. Like, where do you get all this stuff? You see the other guys that have these, I buy them from them usually. Let's talk about sourcing. Oh, so I'm at the point where I'm turning a lot of stuff away. I did. I talked a couple weeks, or I think last month. One of my dealers acquired a 72 Topps baseball set for $300. $300. He reached out to me. He's like, I'll sell it to you for $1,200, and which is a steal. I think a complete set sold on eBay for like $1,700 or $1,800. And that was a complete set, and probably at auction. I can't remember, but I would have broken it up and sold as singles. It would have taken me a long time. I had just bought, I've acquired all this inventory. I don't know if it's this week or last week, but I'm like, I'm going to pass. He sold it an hour later for $2,000. So that was quite the deal. So I'm turning deals away like that. I had somebody offer me 3 4-row boxes of Bowman firsts. But it's a lot of stuff I already have. And the really good stuff was cherry picked. Jackson Holiday's cherry picked. He had the stuff at last weekend's show, which I pulled stuff out of. So it's like, I've just got, it's all paper. I've got way too much of this already. It would have just been a money suck at this point. Another dealer who had sold his Bowman, he had reached out to me about some Bowman, but had already sold it. And then had a box, and I went through, I'm like, what do you want for this box? But it was all mixed. And he's like, I do $400 for the box, which might have been a good deal. I just didn't take the time to go through it. I know there was some really good stuff in it. There was some good 90s, like serial numbered stuff. But at $400, it was a little like, I just didn't know. And I've got enough. I wasn't ready to take a gamble on a box like that. So I'm turning deals away. I've had a couple people reach out, other dealers like, hey, I've got this. I'm like, if it's 80s and 90s, I'm not really interested. One of my dealers does have a whole bunch of stuff, and it goes up to 2021. So I'm like, he's like, it goes back to the 80s, but it's equal amounts. Like every year, there's about, there's say a 5-row box from each year. So we may work out a deal. I'm like, send me some pictures just so I have an idea of what's there, what your total, what you want for it, and we'll see. We may not make the deal. We might make the deal. But that's how you source. Like, that's the number one way to source inventory. Go to card shows and develop relationships and set up at card shows. Like, you build this camaraderie as dealers at card shows that you just don't get when you're on the other side of the table. Like, you can still develop relationships, but once you're doing kind of like a circuit of shows and you're setting up at the same shows and you start buying from people and you know who you can buy from and who it's like, oh, they don't have what I'm looking for. Not that it's not good stuff. Like, there's other dealers that I sell to and there's other guys that are like, I don't want your stuff. And I'm the same way. There's dealers that it's like, I'm not going to look through your stuff because I know what's in there, but I'll look at this guy's stuff and I'll buy from this guy. So that's the number one way to source card shows and developing relationships. You pay $50 for a table, and I'll tell you what, that's a great investment because sometimes the networking is worth its weight in gold than just showing up at a card show as a buyer on the other side of the table. Where are we at? Let's see. Low Roller Scratch, you're talking about some video. So yesterday's show was a great show. Had a lot of fun. Now it was a stressful week though with the quick turnaround from last week's 2-day show. Just trying to keep my head above water and get ready for the Madison show this past yesterday. So it'll be much nicer to get things slowed down this week, get back to my routine of shipping and listing and shipping. We've got sun just beating down on my face right now. So I'm going to wrap things up and go have some breakfast. Speaking of food, last night my wife made, and she had mentioned Friday. And the funny thing is, before I went to bed like a couple weeks ago, I was watching Searching for Italy with Stanley Tucci, which I love. I love Italy. And he took a bite out of some burrata, which burrata is like a mozzarella ball, but it's like milky on the inside. It's just juicy. And I'm like, man, that looks good. So my wife on Friday, she's like, don't eat a late lunch. I'm going to make like basically like an Italian dinner. So she's like, I'm going to go try to find some burrata. And we had this big plump tomato from a garden, somebody else's garden. And big plump tomato, little pesto, found some burrata. Oh my God, it was good. I had 2 little burrata balls. Then we had some Trader Joe's, some like random Trader Joe's, like Italian pizza. Freaking good. So now I'm hungry. I'm going to eat some breakfast. So this week's going to be a little slower. Thank God I can get caught up on shipping and listing and shipping. More so add some more inventory to my store. So we'll do it again tomorrow morning. Hobby Evolution, 7 a.m. Central tomorrow morning. I don't think I have anything going on next weekend. So it appears to be Tuesday? Is that what we figured out? Today's 991. So we're cruising into the 1000th episode. Calendar. So today's Sunday. Where are we at? 991, 992, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tuesday, October 10th. Will be our 1000th episode extravaganza. So we'll go live at 7 a.m. Central on Tuesday the 10th, and then we'll run it back on Tuesday night the 10th at 7 p.m. for the second edition of the 1000th episode. So a week from Tuesday, episode 1000. Shane he's way late. Yes, you are. I am just wrapping things up. So yeah, episode 1000 next Tuesday. So hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit up my eBay store. Buy 7 or more cards at regular price. You'll get 25% off at checkout. I added a bunch of stuff last Monday and Tuesday. Still a lot of good stuff in my store, and you'll save even further if you buy 7 or more. So with that, have a great Sunday. Go Bears. Hopefully it's not as pitiful as we expect it to be. Bears and Broncos today at noon. So have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow.